Hi, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio, where our mantra is to educate, enlighten, and entertain. I have my disclaimer. The views of the guests may not represent those of the station or the host. I have a phenomenal guest with me today, folks. I am excited, as I always am when I interview someone, and that never changes. You know, if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know that my heart is for the caregivers. You know my heart is for Alzheimer's, since it greatly affected my family. Well, with me today is Lisa Skinner, who also was affected personally by Alzheimer's. She is host on Passionate World Talk Radio, host of Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, the podcast. She is co-author and co-writer of Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, Its Secret Faces with Douglas W. Collins, The Unconventional Path to Peace of Mind for Families Facing Alzheimer's and Dementia. Not only is there a book, there's also a workbook, which I highly recommend. And I will tell you more about Lisa. Lisa Skinner is a best-selling author, a behavioral specialist with more than 25 years of experience in the field of Alzheimer's disease and related dementias. Lisa is a Certified Dementia Care Trainer through the Alzheimer's Association, has appeared on national and media broadcasts, and also with her team offers workshops. I'm excited. Lisa Skinner, I want to welcome you to Chatting with Betsy.
Well, thanks for that wonderful introduction, Betsy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Oh, you are welcome, and it is my pleasure to have you on. I love the title of your book. I love it. Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, The Secret Faces. How did you come up with that title? Because I really like it. And it's true.
Well, through my experience, I know it to be true, and I know that you know it to be true because of your experience with your husband going through this journey. And I basically just called it the way I saw it. I've been experiencing Alzheimer's disease and other related dementia for close to 50 years now. I've been doing it professionally for close to 30. But my very first experience with Alzheimer's disease was with my grandmother almost 50 years ago. And she displayed the gamut of all the extreme symptoms, signs, and behaviors that we see with this disease. She displayed the paranoia and the hallucinations and the delusions and the outbursts. And that was my very first experience, and it was an extreme one. So when I decided to write the book, I really wanted to uncover the truths about this disease. There are, as you know, Betsy, there are so many myths that go along with this disease. So I wanted to uncover the truth, dispel those myths for people, and uncover or unveil the secret faces that accompany this disease that, as you know, people don't even realize are part of the disease, like the delusions, like the hallucinations, like the things they say that make absolutely no sense to us. And I've had so many family members, and I've counseled thousands of them over the decades. They will come to me and they tell me that their loved one has Alzheimer's disease, or they tell me they have dementia. A lot of people think that's two separate diseases, which it's not, but we can, save that for another story. And then they'll say to me, oh, and on top of that, she's now crazy. My mom is now crazy. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by your mom is now crazy? And they start telling me about all of the bizarre things that they say and they do. And so one of the objectives that I had for writing the book was not only to uncover everything that people aren't aware of, but to raise awareness, because this is such a devastating disease, and the projections of how many people are going to develop it over the next 25 or 30 years are staggering. The numbers are projected to triple by the year 2050.
Yes.
So
yes, that's the truth.
Kind of Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, that is true. Matter of fact, I saw, I don't know if it was 60 Minutes, I don't even remember when, it said that they don't do something about finding a cure for Alzheimer's. It's going to go past the defense budget for the United States. Think about that, folks. That is like astronomical, and it's going to drain. I don't mean to sound cruel when I say this, but I don't sugarcoat, and anyone who listens to me knows I don't sugarcoat. It's going to drain Medicaid, the system, because a tsunami's coming, and it's kind of scary, and, you know, in a way, because not only, Lisa, and I'm sure, you know, you've encountered this, is the population aging. I'm a baby boomer, but younger people are having some kind of a dementia. So it's not, and that's one of the myths that I wanted to bring up. And that is one of the myths. Oh, only old people get it. That's not true. Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Your husband's a good example of that. He developed early onset Alzheimer's disease, correct?
That's correct. Yes. And I'm sorry. Go ahead. He was 56.
And I said, yeah. I have actually heard of people developing early onset Alzheimer's disease as young as 30.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's you know, it's scary. I was just at the neurologist last week, and I said, you know what? I guess because of, you know, I went through it with my mother-in-law. My dad had Alzheimer's. Living with Matt, my brother had memory problems. So when I go into a room and I forget something, what I went in there for, I get scared, or I forget.
I can't wait. Yeah.
You know, how do I write a word? Like sometimes I just forget how to write a word for like a second. Then it comes to me, and he said, Betsy, that's just a senior moment. And, you know, but we start thinking about our own mortality, but we start thinking about, okay, when should we be concerned, Lisa? When should someone be concerned and say, you know, maybe I should talk to a neurologist or my primary care doctor and then go to a neurologist?
That's a great question. It's a question that people ask me all the time because, and I've had so many people when I do presentations and lectures and things like that, they approach me and they said, you know, it's really getting to the point where I'm really starting to worry whether I'm developing Alzheimer's disease because this happened or that happened. I walked into a room and I couldn't remember for the life of me why I went into that room. It just like flew out of my head, or I have trouble remembering names. And these are all valid concerns that people have, and they ask me all the time, so how do I know if I'm developing Alzheimer's disease? And this is the hard rub of this disease. Most people are not even diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease or one of the other brain diseases that causes dementia until they're already into the middle stages. And the reason why is because the signs, symptoms, and behaviors in the beginning stage of this disease is so subtle that it's very difficult to differentiate between the senior moments, which is the normal aging forgetfulness, and a more serious situation like brain disease that's causing memory loss and confusion. By the time a person really starts showing blatant signs, they've progressed to the middle stage already, and that has been part of the challenge for treatment and cure, because so far what they've been able to come up with, like this new medication that was recently approved by the FDA, works in the earliest stages. Doctors really have no diagnostic tools yet to determine if somebody definitively has Alzheimer's disease. The only definitive diagnosis can't occur until a brain autopsy is done. So it's really, as you know, Betsy, it's really a process of elimination to rule out anything else it could be and to whittle it down to, okay, you have Alzheimer's disease, because it's not anything else that we can determine. So there's a lot of challenges with this disease that make it difficult for everybody. And I would say that one of the big differences between the normal aging process and a brain disease like Alzheimer's disease, that's the number one cause of dementia. It's the one that most of us have heard about, and it's the most common cause of dementia in existence. More people suffer from Alzheimer's disease than any other brain diseases that cause dementia, and there are over 100 of them. But some of the signs that I recommend to look for is repeating yourself. Somebody with it's advanced into their mid-stage of Alzheimer's will typically start repeating questions or stories in the same conversation because they seriously can't remember that they just asked you that question or they just told you that story. That's very common, and it seems to happen to a majority of people with the disease. Not everybody, but it's a very common occurrence. The other thing that's really differentiates normal aging from Alzheimer's disease is the inability to retain information. So I tell myself, as long as I can still remember people's phone numbers or my passwords, things like that, I think I'm okay. Because like you, Betsy, I worry about it. I've had 8 family members with some form of dementia. And so I know I'm a very high risk. So as long as I can still keep remembering my passwords and how to turn my coffee maker on in the morning and how to do all these tasks of daily living that I've been doing for a long time, because people with dementia eventually lose the ability to do all those things. And with the normal aging process, that doesn't happen. So, For example, one of the big differences is when we're having our senior moments, we may have misplaced our keys, and then we find them. It's like, oh, yeah, now I remember I left them there. A person with Alzheimer's disease not only will misplace their keys, but if they find them, they'll pick those keys up and they will have no clue what the function of those keys are. They will not be able to connect the dots that, okay, this is what I'm looking for. These are the keys that I have not been able to find. And this in my hand looks very familiar, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with it. And that's a huge difference between normal aging and a more serious problem like brain disease.
Yes, yes, that's exactly what my neurologist said when I was concerned about my memory, even like a couple of years ago. But the stress, also affects your memory. So grieving affects your memory. So I,
Absolutely.
felt, yeah. So I felt better after having talked to the neurologist, and with like Matt's primary care doctor. I would say maybe 6 years ago. Time goes by so fast. 5 or 6 years ago, he started to pre-screen people using the clock, Lisa. To draw the numbers, the clock.
Yes.
And I said to Matt's doctor, I said, what, too bad you didn't have this. I forgot how many years ago. Then maybe you would have believed me with Matt. And he rolled his eyes and he said, oh, Betsy, there's nothing I could have done for Matt anyway. And that's so discouraging to hear when people say that, and
So in
to
other
you.
words, with this conversation with the doctor, he didn't even offer you any resources or say, well, now that we know what this is what you can expect, this is what I recommend you do. None of that?
None of that. And when you were describing your grandma, Lisa, you just described my mother-in-law. That was your grandma and my mother-in-law sounded the same. Wow. Exactly. But yeah, no, there was no guidance, and that's 13 years ago. Boy, time goes by fast. No guidance at all. I hope that's changed.
No,
I sure do.
And
it hasn't.
Let me tell you, I have recently discovered. So your experience was 13 years ago, and that's the way things were then. And I have been counseling family members and been, doing this professionally for almost 30 years now. I have only started to see things change since COVID, so in the last couple of years. But the Alzheimer's Association World Report for 2022 came out a couple months ago, and the number one concern that they disclosed that in their research and studies is exactly what we're talking about. That even today, people will get their diagnosis from the doctors, and then the doctors basically say, my advice to you is just to get your parents, your mother, your father, whomever it is, life in order, because there's nothing anybody can do about it. Not offering any resources or any post-diagnostic suggestions. And this is the number one concern that came out in this world report just a couple months ago. So obviously things really haven't changed at all, according to this report. Really, really sad.
That is sad. That's why, Lisa, you and I have our work cut out for us, right?
Oh.
You have your podcast. And, folks, you have to listen to Lisa Skinner's podcast, Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's, a podcast. Very informative. We need to learn. See, there wasn't people like Lisa on the Internet or myself talking about Alzheimer's. I would. Mm-mm. It's been more recent, especially with the pandemic. More and more people or have started talking about it. And this is what I say, Lisa. I'm from New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. I serve it straight up. And I'm going to say it like it is because Lord knows I don't sugarcoat. There is no excuse if your loved one gets diagnosed or you yourself. There's no excuse not to be educated now. Now, that might sound harsh, but, back when my husband was diagnosed, my mother-in-law, there was like zilch. I wish there was information. I wish there was Lisa Skinner on the internet talking. I wish there was a Betsy Wurzel talking and other people, Teepa Snow, just to name off my top of my head, because there's so much information out there, and you want to get the right information from the right people. That's important. But there's a lot to learn. Yes, it is overwhelming, but education, to be educated is knowledge and power, and it makes your life easier and your loved one's life easier.
And I can't emphasize that enough. That's exactly the same advice that I give people, and I've learned over the last 50 years since my grandmother's experience, my experience with my grandmother. The best thing a person can do after diagnosis is go and start learning everything you can about what this disease is doing to your loved one, how it impacts the brain, how it impacts the ability to perform your tasks of daily living, and know what to expect, know what to look for. But as important as that process is, it's also important to understand the behaviors that show up as a result of the changing brain and how to effectively respond to those behaviors. Because I'll tell you this, and I've stated it in my book so many times, the best practices and the most effective responses are counterintuitive to the way we want to respond to these situations instinctively. We want to fix people. That's our natural human behavior, is to want to fix people. So if somebody makes a statement who has Alzheimer's disease that is incongruent with your reality, you want to steer them back to your reality, and that doesn't work. We know that doesn't work. So my advice also is to learn best practices and how to effectively respond to their false beliefs, because not responding properly can actually cause what we call catastrophic reactions, and those are extreme emotional responses to things that you might, how you might respond to somebody who's having false beliefs, who absolutely 1,000% believes in what they're saying, and you're trying to talk them out of their belief, and that just creates a more extreme situation. So there are best practices people should be aware of, and really the whole point of this is to get back to what really matters, is enjoying the rest of the time you have with your loved one in a quality way, and having a stressless relationship or stress-free relationship, not always arguing, not always fighting, not always being worried about, if I say this, is it going to create a big scene? And it is possible to have very high-quality life with this disease, but unfortunately part of the onus of making that happen is on the loved ones, the family members, the caregivers, because of what the disease is doing to the brain. And it's important to not only understand what occurs, but why these things occur. You've got to connect all the dots. And that responsibility really falls onto the family members, the caregivers, and the people involved on the perimeter of this disease, not suffering from the disease.
Yes, I agree 100% with what you said, Lisa. There was such a difference with my mother-in-law, how she would hallucinate and had delusions. I was stealing from her. I didn't know about Alzheimer's back then. I didn't know that they hallucinated. I did not know how to handle it, and I did not handle it well because I did not have the information. By the time Matt started to hallucinate, thankfully he didn't accuse me of stealing, but the time he would hallucinate, I was well seasoned and prepared. Why was I prepared? Because I educated myself and I handled it so much better, and it's better for the loved one. And you're right, that it goes into a how do you pronounce it? I can't talk right now. Catastrophic. There I go. There I go. A situation, because we have to realize, and it's hard to realize this, Lisa, you can't rationalize with someone who doesn't have the ability anymore to rationalize. That's out the window.
That's exactly. And that's one of the things that people really have to understand about brain disease. They lose the ability to rationalize, to even distinguish between something that when we have a healthy brain, it's just not such a big deal, or maybe it's a really big deal. They lose the capacity to do that. And really what it comes down to, once they've lost all those cognitive abilities, they're really relying on raw emotion to react to every situation that comes up. And our instinctive raw emotion is going to give us either a flight or a fight response. So they either want to run away from the situation, get away from the situation, or they're going to fight about the situation. And that's where we see the combative behaviors come in, the agitation, the lashing out, because they're responding to something they don't understand but can't rationalize it like we can with a healthy brain. So it's emotion. It's all down to emotion, and it's not going to be a pretty response.
Yeah, that's very true. And they're looking, our loved ones are looking for security. And
yes.
we, we're not perfect. And yes, sometimes we do snap. And I had to really, and it was hard, put myself in Matt's place. I'll never forget the time I said, "Here's your clothes, Matt, to get changed." And he's like, "What do I do with this?" I tell you, like overnight, lost the skill and not knowing how to get dressed and undressed and dressed. And it seemed like overnight he just lost that skill. And I really had to, we have to adjust and readjust and readjust. It's not easy. And I could say this, we have to accept our loved ones where they are and enter their world. It's so important. They can't enter into our world. We have to go in their world. And, when they get near the end of life, they might see their dead relatives. Matt did.
Yeah.
I remember he said, "Oh, my mom came by for a visit." And I said, "Oh, that's nice, Matt. How's your mom doing?" I didn't go, "Oh, no, she didn't. She's dead." I went along with what he was talking about, which comforted him. And that's what they're looking for.
That's right.
Excuse me. It's...
You said something my attention just a minute ago is by educating yourself, you'll learn the things to expect that can happen. They come out of nowhere, but, and this is what you said, you have the ability to be prepared for just about anything, but it's going to take education and understanding and patience to prepare yourself for that.
Yes, that's for sure. I tell this story. I couldn't figure out why Matt could not see anything in front of him. "Where's my water bottle, Betsy? It's right in front of you. Why can't you see it?" And I would get a little snappy sometimes. Then I watched a video about vision, Keep of Snow. And then I understood why he couldn't see what was in front of him. And then I didn't snap at him because I understood. And I even explained it to the eye doctor. Would you believe that, Lisa? I explained to the eye doctor what I learned from Tifa Snow's video, and I told the eye doctor he should watch it. Because people think, oh, he needs a new prescription. And it's not necessarily that. It's the way the brain is now perceiving things. And their vision does get affected. And a lot of people don't realize that. Matt's vision, in his case, was immediately affected. But I did not know that. This disease, it just baffles me. Like, to me, it's just, the people are similar, but they're so different. And, people think, and I think probably one of the myths or lies about Alzheimer's is not only people think it's just an old person's disease, Lisa, they think it's just being forgetful. It's not just forgetfulness. People don't think your brain controls everything. And so you forget, and your body forgets how to do things. It's just like everyone is so different. Some people can't walk after so many years. Some people can walk. Some people forget how to swallow, chew. It's really an intense disease. For lack of a better word for it, it's really something that I hope people don't experience. But if you're bound to, you need to educate yourself. And I can't think of a better way than reading Lisa Skinner's book. Tell us about. You're welcome. Tell us about the workbook, because I know that you have to purchase that separately, Lisa. And so it coincides with the book. Does the workbook give like exercises, suggestions for the caregiver?
The workbook really was designed to go along with the workshops and training programs that I offer. It's similar to the book in the content about the disease, but then it also has exercises and little quizzes and things like that to just reinforce to people who are taking the course important things to know about the disease that will help them navigate the journey with their loved one.
That sounds awesome. I can't believe our time is up and so much more to discuss. Lisa, can you tell the audience where they can purchase your book and where they can find you on the internet and folks that will be in the blog?
Okay, a couple different ways. The book is available on Amazon and other fine booksellers. We've also just come out with an audio version of the book, which is really dynamic. And the website is www.truthliesalzheimers.com. No punctuation, and all the words run together. Truthliesalzheimers.com. And then I have had a blog on Facebook for probably the last 8 years or so, and the name of that blog is Lisa Skinner Author, and I put a lot of helpful information on that blog that hopefully will be valuable to people like on a day-to-day basis. So those are the ways you can find me.
That sounds excellent. And your podcast, Lisa, Truth, Lies, and Alzheimer's? I know it's on YouTube. Want folks to check it out. And where else?
It's on many of the podcast platforms and on the Passionate World Talk radio platform. They are the hosts of my podcast, just like they are with your show, too.
Yes. I thank you, Lisa Skinner, for coming on Chatting with Betsy, writing your book, helping people, and doing all that you do to help people, to help educate people. We need more people like you talking about it. So glad you connected with me on LinkedIn way back in, I think it was July. I'm grateful to really meet people on LinkedIn and all over, and I'm so glad to see more people speaking up about Alzheimer's. And, I used to say years ago when I was doing videos, it's time to get out of the dementia closet, shine a spotlight on it, and just, be proud that you're a caregiver. And we need to personalize this disease with names and faces. It won't be personal until we personalize it. So if you're comfortable, if you have a loved one or you yourself have some kind of dementia, show your journey. Show your loved one's journey. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid what people say. I showed Matt's journey. I still show his journey because I don't want people to forget about Matt's journey. And I'm grateful that Matt's journey touched many lives. And that's how I met Jeannie White, actually. It was because of Matt, really. And I'm thankful for that. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Please share this show to help other people. Chatting with Betsy is all about helping other people, providing resources to help you to know that you're not alone. Even though you may feel it, you're not. And I just want to encourage people to subscribe. It's free. Chatting with Betsy is on Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, to name a few that are just popping into my head, PassionateWorldTalkRadio.com. And please read the blog that Jeannie White writes, station manager. Thank you, Jeannie, and produces the show. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, CEO of Passionate World Talk Radio, who makes this all possible. And, folks, I highly recommend to go on Amazon, go on the website, www.truthlies.alzheimers.com, and get in touch with Lisa Skinner and find out. You know what? If you're not already a caregiver, chances are you're going to be, and you're going to want this information. And if you are a caregiver, or even if you're not, you want to learn about Alzheimer's, or you're looking for a support group, I have a support group on Facebook, #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement. Everyone is welcome to join. You do not have to have Alzheimer's. All dementias are welcome. All walks of life are welcome in #Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, Betsy, Betsy, Wurzel, Wurzel. You're welcome to follow me on Facebook. Take a look into my personal life. I have nothing to hide. I'm very open. And as I always say at the end of my show, in a world where you could be anything, please be kind and shine your light bright. Because if we all did that, it would be a much kinder, brighter world. That's what I have to say today, folks. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate World Talk Radio. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.